Folks, what's up? It's Gary Vaynerchuk with a really rad announcement. Fooling around with Twitter. If you haven't friended me up, friend me up. It is on your right side of the screen. But what I'm most excited about is tomorrow on the CBS Early Show, I will be on nationally. So set your TiVos. I've got a pretty cool segment. I always love your support. Pass it on. Tell your friends. Get up early, anywhere between 7 and 9 a.m. tomorrow. I'm not sure the time yet, but I will Twitter it out if you're following me. And today's episode is extremely special. A tremendous guest. I hope you enjoy it. Have a wonderful holiday season. We're getting very close to 600. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wine Library TV. I am your host, Gary Vaynerchuk, and this, my friends, is the Thunder Show, aka the internet's most passionate wine program. And as you can see right now, we continue with the legendary guests, as I am very honored and thrilled to present to the Vayner Nation, Mr. Jorge Ordonez. How are you, my friend?
Good, very good.
It's good to see you. Now, if you are buying Spanish wine in the United States of America, then you recognize this name. Mott, let's do a little zoom in. The little logo, you probably have tons of bottles in your cellar with this little logo on the back. Jorge has, what's neat for me is I'm not the oldest guy in the wine industry, but I
Me neither.
Not you either. But I even watched Jorge's absolute rise to prominence in the wine industry. I remember first seeing, the wines hit the scene and really started getting hot in, the mid to late 90s is when it really started revving up for you. Jorge and I spent 2.5 weeks together in Spain, had a lot of fun.
Yep.
Jorge smoked 800,000 cigarettes.
Hopefully these days.
Yeah. Have you quit?
No, yet.
Oh, not yet.
In the works.
In the works?
Yeah.
Now, he's a very interesting character in the wine industry. There's a lot of people that absolutely love him, and there's probably people who debate the style of wines that he brings in as being too over the top, and we'll get into that a little bit. Some people think I'm too over the top, so I can deal with that. But Jorge, why don't you tell the maniacs out there what you do, what you're passionate about, how you got into this? Give them a little 3-minute Jorge Ordonez history lesson.
Well, my family was in the wine business for the last 70 years, so I grew up with wine at the table.
70?
70, yeah. So
a big
a lot of consumption of wine since I was a kid.
Yep.
I started drinking beer and then moved promptly to Gran Reserva Riojas. and I did everything in the wine business, from cleaning the warehouse, set up the traps for the mouse, and collect deadbeat customers, delivery cases, unloading trucks, and finally I became a salesman in the family company business in the south of Spain, in Malaga, where I am from.
Were you guys in the wholesale business or the retail?
Yeah, my
business?
father has a wholesale company.
Got it.
So we were in the Costa del Sol, in the south of Spain, selling wine there to fancy restaurants and stores and so on. So then, I did 4 years full time that, and then I moved to the States to marry my wife, my current wife, which is from Boston. So I moved there.
Are you a Patriots fan?
I don't fan of any team, fortunately enough for you. So
Yes.
I don't like baseball, soccer, anything. So
Nothing.
the only thing I like is fishing for tuna and drinking Spanish wines. It's
Fishing.
very simple. So I have a lot of friends.
You're a simple dude.
Here and there.
Right.
So
No
I'm
enemies.
cooking.
Yes.
So when I move in,
You do the cooking.
Yeah, I do at home. Yes, the shopping, the groceries, and so on.
Very good.
So when I moved to the States, I had to do some living.
And what year did you move to the States?
1987.
87.
So I had to make a living. So the only thing I knew was the Spanish wine business. So we start the long career, the long march, I would say, to the success of the Spanish wine business in America. So at the time was no interest in the Spanish wines, and my business was disastrous. So for 7 years, I did manage to do more money, but it's like
You were just surviving.
surviving.
87 and 94, just surviving.
Yeah, I was selling a container here, 2 containers there. The first year I remember selling a container of Spanish wine, 1,000 cases. The second year, 2 containers. The third year, I think we saw 3. And then...
You were growing.
Yeah, growing, slowly. And so we noticed that most of the Spanish wines were cooked on arrival because people didn't handle the wines properly. They didn't ship them correctly. They didn't put in refrigerated trucks. They didn't send them in refrigerated containers. They stored them poorly. So one of the early things we did is to provide the proper shipping of the wine. So I think that has set a track to other people to follow.
Sure.
And to bring the wine in better conditions. So that's why the quality of Spanish wine has increased. Because it was there, But if you don't
But
bring
by
the wine,
the time- right.
yeah, if you don't bring the wine correctly, by the time it was here, the wine was disgusting.
When you sit down on your porch eating some tuna and drinking Spanish wine, do you think at some level that's somewhat of your legacy when you think back, like by establishing that footprint that other people had to follow?
Yeah, I mean,
from a competitive standpoint, do you feel good about that? Is
yeah,
that
I
one of
feel
the
very
things
good
you-
about that. I feel also very good that I introduced to America to many unknown appellations of Spain.
Yes, you-
I don't know, perhaps a dozen of appellations that were never here. I brought them for the first time.
Right.
Evidently, at the beginning, it was difficult to bring the first Albarino. You know, they
Sure.
said, what the hell is
Nobody
that
gave a
grape?
crap about Albarino.
Exactly, and it was expensive, more expensive than white Riojas. At the beginning, it was difficult to bring Garnachas from Calatayud, from Borja, because nobody heard about those areas. At the beginning, it was difficult to bring the first Priorat to America, and many other appellations, because
Fun to
I
think about it
thought
now.
there is life beyond Rioja, and as having the best portfolio of Rioja in the market, doesn't make me obliged to sell just Rioja. There is other great appellations in Spain that people had to discover.
When did you start making that move into the other appellations?
Oh, early on,
Right
I
away?
think, the third year of business here,
Yeah.
I realized that most of the people were selling Tempranillo.
Sure.
But the reality at the time, the most widely planted grape in Spain was Garnacha,
That's right.
no Tempranillo.
And
so I said,
Rhone-
why the hell we are not shipping some delicious Garnacha to the consumer in America? So,
And Rhone wines were doing well at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, exactly.
So there was a natural opportunity there.
exactly.
What were some of the early tipping points when things started really? I mean, for me, obviously, when the Wine Advocate went crazy in the 97, 98, I don't remember exactly the year.
94, I think.
That was a
95.
little bit before my time, so I probably caught the second or third issue that he started going crazy. Was Parker's impact very important? I have to assume it was.
I think it was.
It at least opened up people's eyes to what you were doing.
Exactly, brought me more into the limelight of the market. Although I was already there, so
Sure.
we have distribution, we have the distributors.
You were
and
already
people
7,
that-
8 years into the game.
Yeah, some people trust what we did with our ratings and everything,
course.
but
And
when
still to
Parker
this day.
came, it was a push.
You started getting phone calls from around the country.
Exactly. I mean, also
How many
the
states-
Wine Spectator also
Sure.
started picking attention of Spanish wines, Dancer. No, I mean, it's not. A number of people realize of the great value that we represent in the market still today.
All right. When prior to the press, how many markets were you servicing? How many states?
I don't remember exactly. I would say
But
we were in like 15
Were you in the
markets, so-
Northeast or was it?
No,
more-
we were all over the country.
And what were some of the early buyers, retailers or restaurants that you really
Mainly,
stepped up?
initially
Was Big Y and those guys in
yeah,
Massachusetts,
yeah,
Marty's, all
yeah,
those guys?
yeah,
Since
yeah.
you were there, right?
Yeah, but we sold all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most of the Spanish wine at the beginning was sold in retail, simply because there was not a demand for
On
the
the restaurant level.
Restaurant level. So we worked a lot with restaurants initially to bring Spanish wines to the wine list of America, which was very difficult.
Sure.
Very
Sommeliers
difficult.
were tough.
Yeah, because what
They didn't
the
know
hell
it.
is that?
Yeah.
Like the Spanish wine,
Sure.
Rioja.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, which retailers stepped up? Was it Sam's, Zacky's? Was it completely spread? MacArthur's? Were there any national retailers that really kind of were
many,
big back? I mean,
many.
usually for a small importer or a small category,
Yeah.
one or two retailers. Great ring, by the way, you have.
Yeah.
One or two retailers lead the charge.
No, many
was
of
it
them.
more spread?
I couldn't say that one or two of them lead the charge. Many of them trust what we did, and so. I mean, at different levels. It was not like
Sure.
one saying like, "Oh, I want 30 Spanish wines in my shelves
Sure.
immediately." Little by little, it was a slow process. So from having 5 wines on the shelf to having
20.
15 wines on the shelf, and then they went to more, and then they realized there were other importers. So it was no miracle overnight, no surprise, no free ride.
When did you say? When were you on your boat catching 120-pound tuna and saying to yourself, Spanish wines have made it in the U.S.
Yeah.
When did you have that moment?
Oh, I would say by 1999 or something like that.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was
By the
saying.
time I wasn't in the boat catching tuna,
No?
I didn't have time for
You were
that.
at the bank cashing cash.
No, I was at the borrowing cash.
Understood. So, late 90s, getting into the new decade, it started becoming obvious.
Yeah, yeah.
And really, it must be such a weird feeling. It must be such a proud feeling to watch how much. Now, when I think of who dominates the $8 to $15 price point range, it's really Spain, and Australia. But Australia's really taken a little bit of a beating over the last 24 to 36 months. At least by search terms and by what we see in the stores and just demand. But Spain has really been able to hold on, and we've seen a lot of growth in Spanish white wines, which is probably something you're excited about, right? Goteo and things of that nature.
Exactly. I mean, I think if we have a benefit or differential character with other winemaking countries like Australia, Argentina, Chile, or whatever, they are New World and we are Old World. So we have been making wine in Spain most probably for the last 25 centuries. And we have today in Spain no less than 250 different indigenous varieties. Some of them came from other places, some of them were originated there. So we have, I think, different type of viticulture, kind of more ancient, less modern, more natural, less fertilization, less chemical treatments, more old vines, less yields. And we have some assortment of different grapes that clearly makes us apart from other countries. I mean, perhaps not with Italy or France.
Sure.
But anyway, I mean, the main grape in Spain is not Cabernet, it's not Chardonnay, it's not Pinot Noir. It is our own varieties, which bring a differential character for Spanish wines.
Gives you
So
your own
because
flavor.
you could drink a Pinot Noir from Argentina, you could drink it from California, you could drink it for everywhere, including France, but you cannot have very good Tempranillos from outside of Spain. You cannot have great garnachas with the density and the old clones of garnacha, which are originated in Spain, actually. You cannot find those dime a dozen. You cannot find a great Goteo from the mountains of Galicia. You cannot find Alvarinhos of the quality of the fans of Rías Baixas. Or it's difficult to find a Moscatel from the mountains of Malaga, that's the one we made there, in a slate, made with 80 years old vines.
So what do you say to the people that say a lot of the wines that you represent and have brought into us are New World, are fruit bombs, are over the top, have a ton of oak, it's out there. I mean, I'd be remiss to not mention that. I mean, it is out there that people believe that stylistically is what you like.
New World wine geographically are produced in New World country, and Spain is an Old World country.
So you say the vines and the grapes, because of that, are unable to perform a New World trick.
No, because
even if they're heavily oaked,
most of
and
the
things
Spanish
that
vineyards are no clonal selections. So they have vineyards that have been planted there for 1,000 years, developing their own strains, and nobody has, very few people have clone number 27 Tempranillo, clone number 33, whatever, as you find elsewhere. So the complexity of the wines is completely different because you have in a single vineyard situation perhaps 5 different clones of Tempranillo or 6 clones of Garnacha. That's one thing. The other thing is because the low yields that Spain is famous for. Keep in mind that Spain is the largest vineyard on earth. More vineyards we have planted in Spain than in Italy or France. Yet we are the 3rd largest producer of wine in the world. And why is that? Because our yields are very low. So having low yields, you have a couple of things. One of the things is perfectly ripe grapes. Second, a lot of concentration. And not all the varieties in the world are the same. So to have perhaps Cabernet Sauvignon mature, you could have a 14% by volume wine. Okay, some Tempranillos, some strains, you could have a 13.5% volume Tempranillo mature.
Yep.
Now a Garnacha from the mountains of Spain, which is the original place in Aragon where Garnacha was, founded.
Something that you like to talk about often.
Exactly.
Because it's important to you.
Yes. It's not ripe until the vine, the grapes have at least 15%, 14.5% by volume. So I could make a Garnacha 13.5% by volume to satisfy certain clientele. Knowingly so, then I'm going to give you a very unripe grape, very green wine that is undrinkable.
I like green wines.
I mean, different flavors in food, different flavors in grapes, different varieties have to do their own thing. And I'm very non-invasive approach in winemaking. So I mean, if the grape has to be mature at 14.5, let's do it. Because it's a mountain grape that produces less than a ton per acre, that has great acidity, and her of Garnacha, for example.
Yep.
And you're going to have a tremendous complexity and richness that is natural. It doesn't come from a concentration machine, from chemistry or enological tricks.
It's not a science project.
It's not a science project. It's Mother Nature doing what it's supposed to do.
And if it goes to 100% alcohol, you really don't give a crap. You want the grape and the vineyard to do its thing.
Exactly, in a natural way.
Understood.
In a natural way.
How many wineries are you representing these days into the U.S.?
Right now it's 45 wineries. I could
45
have
wineries.
100, but I'm not a melomaniac, so I want to have it keep down because we work very hard with the producers to keep control of the quality of what we do.
Have
So
you
it's
cut,
a lot of
have you
intimate
cut
work.
some? What was the high? Because it
I
seems like
think
you were a
we
little
have,
higher, right? At one point?
65 wineries,
So
but I
you
think
trimmed a
it
little
was
bit.
getting out of control.
So you wanted to
one
trim
of the
the
things
fat.
we do here, besides being importers and distributors, is we work very close with the producers to make sure that the quality
And this is
there.
where I want to jump in because I wanted that segue. What I think Jorge does, and there's some other people out there that do this, and it's probably about 7 to 15 characters. And a lot of them have different styles. Stylistically, they prefer different styles of wines. But Jorge is a group of these 10 to 15 importers that have redonkulous. Let me say it again. Redonkulous relationships with their wineries where they have tremendous input on the direction of the winemaking style. Tremendous.
My policy is always the same.
You're almost like a tsar, like
If
a
it-
Russian tsar. You
no.
come in and I want this, and then they make it,
If
right?
it's not
No?
broken, don't fix it. So there are wineries that they make great wines, and I don't have to do anything.
So you
and
just
I-
add a spice sometimes.
And sometimes nothing. I say keep the good work.
Sure.
If some people say, well, can we work together to improve the style of this wine? The barrels that we buy are not the right ones. Somebody's giving the wrong barrels.
Sure.
We help them to find the right cooper. What do you think about this press that we have here? Do you think we should do the malo in the barrel or not? I mean, I'm not demanding from any of my suppliers to do whatever the hell I want to do.
Sure.
It's a collaboration work. If they are not happy, I cannot represent them.
Sure.
And it has to be a mutual relationship.
But if they don't listen, you bring out a bat and break their kneecaps.
Sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I like about you. What about, and I think I'm really enjoying this interview, and I think it's a good different perspective. It's a real good recap. So while we're talking about the Spanish wine industry and people are getting educated, what about today? Economy softening. There's you represent a lot of premium wines, but I got to be honest with you, we just offered the 05 version, the 06 version of the Clio, and it scared the crap out of us. We sold it in 25 seconds. So obviously there's brand equity within that. However, there are other wineries I'm sure that you represent that, 60, 70, 80. You represent plenty of $100 cuvées from these wineries. Have you seen a softening? Is there concern? How does your company and these wineries look at what's going on in the U.S. market, where you guys are obviously, this is a very big market for you.
Yeah.
The biggest by leaps and bounds, if I'm
Yes.
not wrong.
Yeah, New Year. Yeah.
So what do
New
you
Year's, New Year.
what do you think about that? We're as a businessman from that standpoint, because there's a lot of people who watch and are love the wine stuff, but I think can be intrigued. We don't we do episodes 5 days a week, so we can talk about the business side. What does somebody on your level see going on, and what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, there are many people producing $100 wines, but they produce a ton of them. So
Sure.
it's like a special cuvée of only 6,000 cases.
Sure.
When we go to produce these cuvées, in general, my producers are small, medium size, and so you can get a lot of
So
Clio.
Muga.
So I mean, like for example, the Clio that flew out the door.
Right.
Perhaps I could have produced more, not perhaps with the same quality.
Right.
Okay, and eventually reaching the point of overflowing the market. So if you are centering to the quality, which is the first thing in business, so the money comes later. You think about quality of the wine. Normally you keep your production low. That's the first thing. When you keep the production low, it's easy to sell the few bottles that you make.
Sure.
It's more difficult.
There's always somebody out there.
Exactly. That is interested if the wine is good and is different. Because there is a lot of Cabernets out there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but it has to be your Cabernet, which I don't sell much Cabernet whatsoever, or your wine, your bottled wine has to be clearly differentiated to make different to thousands of offerings that are out there.
Clio really, really impressed me. Well, this is the El Nido, but the
Yeah.
Clio really has impressed me with the price point.
Yeah.
I mean, it has not fundamentally gone up that much, and
No.
the wine's ripping hot, and that shows tremendous business discipline. Where does that discipline come
Well, the
from?
philosophy of the companies that we
'Cause I'm surprised.
partner,
We were talking about
many
that.
of the companies that I represent, everything, they are not fly-by-night operators. So we don't believe if I get 96 points Parker, 97 points in the Wine Spectator, and 88 points in Tensor, let's say, I don't believe increasing the price 25%. We never did. So as a matter of fact, wines like Clio or Nido haven't changed the price in origin since the 2002 vintage. We haven't increased one penny. if the prices went up, unfortunately, has been due to the exchange rate.
The exchange rate.
Yeah, that's the main problem that we have had. You have seen many customers drinking the bottle of Spanish wine that used to be $10, being now $15, but it's not for the producer. It's the situation euro-dollar. If, on top of that, when success came to us, we would have increased 25%, which many people will be tempted to do, will be completely perhaps out of the market.
And that's what's happened for a lot of people, especially in the Australian market.
Greed have killed a lot of people. You know, unfortunately.
Yes, it has. Matt, let's zoom in. We've had a great time yapping. Now we're going to do a little drinking, and we go right to the tippy top. This is the El Nido 2002. This is the first vintage, right?
Yeah, the first
of this
vintage.
wine.
Yeah.
Now, what was the suggested retail of this wine when it first came out?
This wine, 100.
About 100 bones, right? Yeah. Now, this is the big brother to the Clio that we just did the other day, and we've done the 06, 05, 04, 03. We've done 4 vintages of Clio on this show. Of that bunch, just on my palate, I thought the 06 was really leaps and bounds better than the 05 for some reason for me.
I mean, these are wines of long evolution, so you cannot judge them for, in some cases, how they taste when they are released.
Sure.
I mean, I had tasted with many wine writers, many wines, including this one. I say, shoot, if I taste this wine now, I would have given 4 more points. They say, well, sure. I have to release it before, otherwise I have to charge more money. That's
the insanity of scoring wines and rating. I mean, you're catching a wine at a moment in time. It's like meeting a human being. If you catch them on a bad day, you know, the first time I met you, I rated you an 87, but when we were in Spain together, I thought you were a 94.
Thank you.
You're much cooler.
Must be the paella.
Yeah. I was full. And I got to grow my beard, and we got to eat constantly, weird animals, and I enjoyed all that. So let's jump into this. Now, is this a blend similar to the Clio? Is it
the Clio,
Cabernet and
yeah, both grapes. We have Cabernet here and Monastrell. This is a project that was created with Dan Phillips, the famous Australian importer, and Chris Ringland, and the Hill family of Humilla, and I. So we were looking for some place with a lot of terroir, and terroir is plenty here. I mean, very deep situation, climatically and soil-wise, unique, and we found it in Humilla, a very, at the time, very obscure region.
Now it's ripping hot.
Yeah, but nobody heard about that before. So when we saw the vineyards, when Dan Phillips and Chris Ringland saw the vineyards, they were berserker. I said, this is incredible. I mean, this is vines, you know, no trellis, old-fashioned goblet or basso system, as we call them.
Sure.
In vineyards covered with rock of chalk.
Sure.
This is, by the way, one of the few places in Spain that resists successfully the phylloxera. And the birthplace of the great called Monastrell, that over perhaps 200 years ago moved to France, and it was called Mourvedre.
Sure.
But this is the birthplace, the original thing. So we have, the wines here have great, deep character. And so Clio was made with 70% Monastrell and 30% Cabernet, because we have the oldest vineyard in Humilla, Cabernet. And decided to do the El Nido the opposite. It's 70% Cabernet and 30% Monastrell. The Monastrell here is very old vines, ungrafted, no American rootstock, which has a great complexity to the Cabernet, and I think it's a great marriage. And I bring the 2002 because it was not a very famous vintage in Spain, but in Humilla it was darn good, and proves the potential of evolution for this wine. To me, it tastes like as good as tasted in 2004. So it's kind of like very frozen in time. And I think this wine is going to be kicking alive for the next 20 years or something.
Right on the nose, the biggest thing that I get is black currant mixed with tea. Black tea. I get a lot of tea on the nose. Go ahead.
Yeah. Can I turn on the phone?
Yeah, go ahead. They don't mind.
Good.
I mean, Jorge, we get much crazier up in here. It gets, we start raving, we bring out the light stick, Mott gets crazy, does belly dancing. You don't have to really worry about it.
Oh, that's good.
The Maniacs are very... they're tough-skinned individuals.
Super. Sorry about that, guys.
No problem.
So, I mean, I smell here, I don't know, plums and, you know, perhaps some...
I get the tea component quite a bit, which I like.
Yeah.
How about you? What else are you getting?
You know, lead pencil perhaps a little bit.
Little pencil shaving, right?
Yep.
Little Pencil Wars 1985 circa. Let's give it a whirl. Very fresh. A lot of bright fruit. Great tannins. Lots of structure. Great mid palate. Little mocha.
Yeah, cherries. You know. Swiss cherries.
Absolutely. Very, very dominated by a sour sweet kind of cherry thing going on, which I like quite a bit. Like a mix.
Currants too.
Yeah, the currant I got on the nose big time, and I think it translates over to the flavor profile. It also has a little hint of herbaceousness on the back end, which I think brings a little bit of an interesting complexity, almost like a dusty component. You know, dry on the palate.
Bittersweet chocolate type thing. You know, when it gets like dries your palate a little bit. Smoky.
Still very youthful, very vibrant. Nice wine.
Wine should have been decanted, by the way.
Yeah, I mean.
But it's better to have it in the camera.
Yeah. It's much prettier on camera. You know, you get this thing in the canner, and mine's are not clean.
Decanted for half an hour will be wonderful.
Good fruit. All right. Nice wine. So now, tell us, they kind of know a little bit about that, but let's tell us the project about this. This is something a little bit off my radar as well.
Well, you know, I love Garnacha for many reasons, being indigenous Spanish grape. And so we went to this remote location.
Now you know why. Now you know why we had such a good time in Spain together. I mean, he's just, you know.
I have my donuts, but I need something to go with.
Now, the Atica, right? Atica Armas.
Yep.
And this is what, all Grenache?
All
100% old vine Grenache.
All vines, yeah.
Extremely old. How old?
Well, this is actually a single vineyard. The name of the winery is Ateca. And the single vineyard is called Armas.
Got it.
Which in Spain means weapons, but that doesn't mean anything. Yeah. And Armas vineyard is a vineyard planted in 1909.
1909.
And it's 6 hectares, yielding less than a ton per acre. It's like something ridiculously low yield.
Are you going to do something special for the 09 vintage, like call it the 100-year?
Maybe, that was a good point.
You see, I'm a marketing guy. Come on.
Oh, good
Yeah, you like that, right?
About that.
Yeah, and it should be a wine library exclusive. Charge more.
Charge more.
Yeah, and it'll be our exclusive.
Excellent.
That's right. I agree. So, now, what do you specifically like about this region? Matt, zoom in here. Let's talk a little bit about the
Calatayud.
What do you like about the Calatayud?
Well, the Calatayud is the highest Garnacha in Spain, with vineyards located between 2,100 to over 3,000 feet in elevation. This particular vineyard is above 3,000 feet in elevation right now, and so produce the deepest Garnacha flavors that I can find in Spain. Okay, very dark. Look at the color of Garnacha. It's like most of the Garnachas are pinkish, lightish in color. This is like a Cabernet color thing, but it comes from Garnacha. Very great natural acidity,
which is so important with Grenache,
and great minerality. So the behavior of this wine is not like your regular average Garnacha. Also, it's very mineral because the soils are made out of a slate and a little bit of clay, decomposed, broken in slate. And I've never seen a wine of Garnacha so deep. This is a wine that needs to be decanted. And when it's decanted, it's a big bond of fruit.
Yeah,
it looks like a lot of tannic things and everything, but it's loaded with fruit. You know,
I get strawberry Twizzlers. You eat Twizzlers?
No, I don't. I don't eat that crap.
I understand. Sorry.
So you know, it's also like dark raspberries, things like that. I find this wine.
The minerality is very obvious. I mean, it's almost like there was crushed stone, you know, put in here. I mean, it's really, this is a real, you know, to me, really what this comes across when I drink it, I think of people who love Shat Enough to Pop.
Yeah.
You know, just putting this in their hand and saying, hey, what is the suggested retail on this?
$50 or something.
50?
Yeah. I decanted a bottle of this wine the other day in Boston, a Troquet restaurant, one of my favorite spots for wine service and everything.
Yep.
And it was unbelievable.
What place is that?
Troquet.
Troquet?
Yeah, it's a French bistro.
Yeah.
Downtown.
We have a lot of Massachusetts Vaniacs, even though they root for the Patriots, we still let them
And
watch.
they have we decant this wine, and 1 hour later it was jumping out of the glass. Incredible.
You're a big fan of decanting. I remember on our
Actually, I know.
No.
I know. I mean, it's like...
You mentioned it 13 times on the show.
Well, I mean, but I mean... yes or no. I mean, depending on the stage of the wine...
Sure.
The temperature of the wine, the temperature of the room, sometimes I want to decant, sometimes I don't. For example, if I have a party,
of your emotions.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But if I have a party with 15 people, you know, we are all drinking
I like this a lot.
Thank you. We have 15 people and 6-7 wines. I don't like to decant the wine because the fruit is going to be gone by the time we get to the bottle. I'd rather keep it undeveloped than to develop. Let's put it that way. But if I'm in a small city, we have 2 bottles of wine. I will have, decanted the wine. Yeah.
Now, in wrapping up, by the way, great wine. I mean, to me, the El Nido, great style, great, old world action, still pretty tight I thought the 02, again, right, a vintage in Jumilla that outshined a lot of the other subcategories of Spain in 2002. You know, to me, it's a 92, 93 point wine. This Atica is ripping my face off. I think this is tremendous. Knowing that it's suggested $50 retail, you know, that means you could probably even find it somewhere in the 40s. I mean, us dirty retailers that you hate so much with probably 25. Anyway, a tremendous effort, completely made for Chateauneuf du Pape fans. Gorgeous strawberries, crushed rock, a rock and strawberry salad is how I break this wine down, Jorge. You know, it's like gorgeous plump strawberries, and just take a bunch of gravel, crush it up, just eat it. Don't be scared of the rocks. They won't chip your teeth. Your teeth are tougher than you think. Great complexity on the back end. I get a little bit of like a perfume component on the back end, a little floral action. Gorgeous stuff. To me, this is a 94 plus point wine, and at the price point, an absolute steal. I don't even think we carry this. Now I have to look into it. Now, is the 05 and you're on 06 already?
The 06 is
in the market?
Yeah, it's in the market.
Is the 05 still in the market?
No. I think I store a couple of bottles there. I may have 4 or 5 cases left in the warehouse.
Okay.
It's in my cellar.
Tremendous stuff. If you can seek it out, if you've got stores in your local area that still are sitting with some bottles of 05, check that out. As a matter of fact, Mont, let's link up some sort of link where we can try to find it from WineZap or WineSearch or something. We'll help these guys out because they should find the 05. In recapping, or actually, one more little side question for myself. Mm-hmm. You're very enthralled and passionate about the Spanish wine market. Mm-hmm. Outside of Spain, this year, 2008, what kind of wines did you drink around the world that kind of caught your attention? Anything, or are you just really home team, only drink Spanish wine?
Well, that's I do a lot of home teaming situation.
Yes, a lot of home team situation.
I drink Bordeaux sometimes,
Right.
And, wines from here and there. I mean, I don't have any particular...
Do you find it important to try wines from Australia and California and Italy just to have a sense of where the American palate or the world palate is moving and trying just to keep up with the Joneses, see what they're doing, just to have a sense of the world when you're tasting your own wines?
I think it's important to have a sense of...
Do you feel like you maybe should do a little bit more of that in 2009? Are you willing here on the Thunder Show, Jorge, to say in 2009 you will drink more wine and expand your own palate?
Well, I do that on a regular basis when I go to restaurants. I drink not necessarily only my wines.
Right.
So I drink wines from all over the world. Mm-hmm. I have friends like Don Phillips in Australia.
Sure.
I drink his wines on a regular basis.
Yep.
I represent a winery from Argentina, so I drink Argentinian wines. Mm-hmm. French wines, Burgundies. I was drinking a few Burgundies in Bordeaux last weekend in Bahamas. Very nicely.
Nice wines.
And we did some damage. Some 85s and things like that.
Oh, and, you stepped up.
You're
looking sharp today, my man. I gotta admit.
Thank you.
You kind of impressed me with your look.
So, I keep drinking things from all over because it's important to know what other people are doing.
Sure.
Not necessarily to change the style, because I don't believe in order to sometimes to change the style of your wine, you have to do tricks, and I don't like tricks. So this Garnacha is like this because it's superb vineyard and a few barrels and a very old primitive techniques of winemaking. I mean, modern equipment for sure. Like hydraulic press, open fermenters, and that's the
You do a lot of hydraulic press, right?
For the best vineyards, yes, because it takes
saw a lot of that
12 hours to press the grapes, but the final product, if you have the grapes, is fantastic. I mean, some people say, "Wow, I'm gonna buy hydraulic press," but the vineyard is planted 5 years ago. You can press as much as you want, my friend, but you're not going to get the results.
Jorge, the big tradition of guests on the Thunder Show is you get to ask the question of the day to the Vaniacs out there. It could be about anything, wine, life, fishing, anything you want. Ask the Vayner Nation the question of the day. Any question. What would you like them to answer?
Well, the question of the day, do you really know that Spain has more vineyards than any other country in the world before this conversation started? Thank you.
It's a yes-no, Vaniacs. Jorge, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, the wine is really good. But of me, we're changing the wine world.